The following production may contain content unsuitable for younger viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alright, so we're here with great voice actor Mr. David Kaye. Thanks again, David, just for doing this. I would thank David Hayes as well. And you can tell him how it went after the interview as well.
I will do.
All right.
No, it's great to be here. Thanks for asking. We finally got a chance to do this.
Yeah. It took very long to set this up, but I'm just glad we had time to do this. So I guess I'm gonna ask you the first fundamental question that you probably heard before. Can you maybe introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And how long have you been doing it? And how did you get to where you are now? And any notable roles that you have played in the past?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, well, it is a loaded question. But it's just to introduce yourself.
It started back in Vancouver. So my name is David Kaye. I was actually born in Canada in a little place called Peterborough, not too far from Toronto.
Okay.
And I live now in Los Angeles. I've been living here for quite a while. I started in radio in Peterborough back in the early 80s, and it was horrible. But someone gave me a shot. Program director Rick Johnson. I was working actually in a YMCA pro shop at the time, and I was selling squash rackets, and that's how I got hooked on squash, which I still play to this day.
Oh, nice.
I like. So I used to sell rackets and squash balls and things at the pro shop at the YMCA in Peterborough, and the morning man John Marysine used to come in all the time to the Y, and he was always big into fitness. And anyway, I just got friendly with him. I was just, I was very young, and he invited me to the radio station. I ended up reading a piece of copy in a cassette recorder. Remember those? You don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely. I still have one to this day.
My dad still has this. Yeah.
The classic cassette recorder. So I read. I can't remember what it was. It was a piece of copy or news copy or a commercial. I can't remember. And anyway, they gave me an overnight show on the air at 17 when I was still going to high school, and I did overnights on weekends, like midnight to 6 a.m. And it was I was awful, but it was the coolest gig in the world, and that sort of started this whole thing about opening up, radio and show business and the opportunities within that. And then fast forward in the late 80s, I moved to Vancouver for a job on the morning show at a radio station, LG 73. The zoo format was big, and I started to do characters in the morning show. Cowboy Dick, howdy boys and girls, weird stuff like that. I used to sing weird songs and make up silly voices, and that sort of got me in touch with this. It was a commercial modeling course, one of those commercial modeling courses where the commercial side of it was cool. The modeling part was kind of, well, if you had one eye in the middle of your head, hey, I think we could find a job for you, and they'd steal your money, and you'd go nowhere. But the commercial side of it was, I met my very first agent, who we're still very good friends to this day. He's no longer my agent, been for years, but he lives in Palm Springs, and he's not too far from me now. But that started the whole career. He asked me to be his agent, and then he sent me out. I had no idea what I was doing, really. He said, "No, you could do this. You could be good at this." So I said, "Okay, well, you be my agent then." And so I had an audition maybe about 6 or 8 weeks after I agreed to come on board with, be a client of a talent agent. And I was still doing the radio show at the time. And an audition came through for G.I. Joe, the Great American Hero. So I went to audition for it. And basically, Ross Rhodes is my first agent. I said, "Can you do voices?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I really didn't know what I was saying yes to. And I get this audition, and I ended up being cast as General Hawk in my first cartoon series in G.I. Joe. And I have about, I think, 8 toys I found. I was cleaning out my garage, and still 8 toys in the box with a little button, yo, Joe, yo, Joe, yo, and you still press them. And they still work after all this time. But that sort of started the whole cartoon thing where I went, oh, there's this world. All right, well, I want to quit everything else I'm doing and do this. So that became a main focus. And eventually got out of radio and moved out to Los Angeles.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm here just working with some of the coolest people ever and having a ball. Working on a lot of cartoons and stuff like that, and it's just great. It's really cool. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it all.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's really great. So I probably know some of the roles that you did, but can you just like list out some of like your most memorable roles that you've done, like the most notable ones, like when people think David Kaye, they think, oh, that character or something like that.
Yes. Well, there is of course General Hawk from G.I. Joe.
Yep, G.I. Joe.
Gosh, we're gonna go way back here. Oh, there's Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, Clank.
Of course, a big movie coming out next year.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way. I'm looking forward to that.
We'll see how it does. I heard it looks phenomenal. I know nothing else other than that. I don't know, but everybody's quite excited to see it. In anime, I used to do some anime in Vancouver, and it was cast as Son Tendo and Ranma One Half.
Yeah, that's our main subject for today. So
yeah. So that's you
that
know about that. And Akane Nabiki, I waited for this day. You know, he's just crazy. And gosh, it was in Maison Ikuko, Ikoku, I think it was called.
Ikoku, yeah, I believe it's.
Ikoku. We did a bunch of those shows. We did. You remember did you ever see the movie, the Ranma One Half movie, Big Trouble in?
I haven't watched the series, but I heard of the movie.
It's out there. I did Fatal Fury, Kim Kat-Wan.
Yep.
And that. Let's see.
And you're Megatron as well from the. Well, yeah.
I was trying to remember some of the anime I did. I was in Dragon Ball Z for quite a while as Riku.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was cast in the mid-90s as Megatron in the reboot of the Transformers franchise, which was Beast Wars, and that was probably that started a real big for my career. It was a big launch sort of thing, I guess, looking back. There was a ton of stuff. Exo Squad, I was Draconis and Hallis, and I got a chance to work with some pretty cool people on that show. I was doing some on-camera stuff at the time. I was in a couple episodes of X-Files, Mantis, some stuff that's no longer on the air. And gosh, I did Gundam, of course, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, and that was a pretty big role. Trace Kushranada is one of my favorite anime characters. It was kind of cool to do. We did. And at that time, Happy Gilmore was being shot in Vancouver, and I got cast in that. And I still, every time I turn the TV on, that damn movie's on. And I had actually, it's a funny story. I had a chance to work on. I'm on the regular show as well. Is Reginald, the giant baby, a big giant floating baby on the regular show.
Oh, Xavier's here is a big fan.
I love regular show.
What's that?
I love regular show.
Oh, the regular show. And we were in to record one day, and in walks Chris McDonald, who was the golfer, who was opposite, who was the, Happy Gilmore's enemy golfer.
Yeah. And
because I interviewed him on the screen in the movie, and I said, Chris, I don't know if you remember. He goes, oh my God, yes. And so we did an episode of regular show together recently. It was kind of cool.
Nice.
And there's been a bunch of stuff on and on. I can't. I'm trying to remember all this stuff.
Well, you don't need to force yourself.
Big portfolio.
You can go to IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb has everything. Wikipedia, of course.
Fast forward to LA. It's a Transformers animated. I was cast as Optimus Prime.
Yep.
It's kind of weird to be cast as the good guy, not the bad guy. I was Xavier in X-Men Evolution. And today is a bunch of stuff going on. Jarvis in Avengers Assemble, and there's some also other characters I'm playing, which I can't tell you about right now. That's really cool, and that whole franchise, the Avengers.
And I believe you've also been the in-house announcer for the John Oliver show, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's the gig we're currently doing, and it's a lot of fun. Last week tonight with John Oliver, we record every week generally, and actually we're back as of last week. We're on hiatus for a couple of weeks, and doing a bunch of shows, and that's very, very fun. Last thing I did for the Queen's Hat this past weekend, I couldn't stop laughing. They couldn't stop laughing. We had to stop recording for a minute because we just couldn't continue. So that happens a lot on that show. That's a lot of fun.
All right.
And yeah, I mean, it goes on and on. That's the hope. My job is kind of, it's like a juggler, kind of keep things in the air all the time, because there's radio stations I do on a daily basis and TV stations and network promo. I did something for NFL Fox Sunday Football on Sunday. So there's stuff kind of happening all the time along with others, So it's a daily ongoing thing. It's been a lot of fun, man.
I know you've done a lot of voice work for anime, of course, and I believe most of the anime that you dubbed were from Ocean Productions. So can you tell me like how you first got involved with that production company?
I think it was Ranma One Half. It was the first. Was it Ranma? It might have been the first big series I was cast. There was a couple things before that, but I think that that started. And I was one of those things where your agent sends you a. Hey, they want to see you at Ocean Sound. They're gonna. It's a new series. They're doing it. They're dubbing into English. It's called Ranma One Half. And I knew some of the players already at the studio. Carl Wilms, the director, and a few people at the beginning there. And it was just a fun place to be. I didn't really. I didn't think sort of too much of it. I didn't really know the history of anything. I just kind of went in wide-eyed and said, "Oh, okay, I'll do the voice." And came up with voices for a couple of different characters and ended up getting cast in it. So, and that started the ball rolling at Ocean. So every time there was a series that would come through, I would, go and read for it. And a lot of times to get the part, sometimes they would just cast me in a role. Sashomaru from Inuyasha, it was a huge role. And I believe I was just cast in the role, sort of like they just said, can you try this voice? And I was sort of, and that doesn't happen a lot, often a lot. But they just say, "Here, I think you can, do this," and I did that. And okay, let's just go with that, and I did that, and I ended up being on the show for however 700 episodes or whatever it was. So we did. But that, just sort of started the ball rolling at Ocean, and you get comfortable with people, and you know everyone, and it's a relationship building, and it's just every time you go in, it was a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. Hey, it was a good time. Didn't make a lot of money on those shows, but I really didn't care. I was just building a resume and having a good time. So. It was fun.
So your overall experience at that place, it was like, it was pretty good.
Great experience. Oh yeah, it was always a lot of fun. And that was it. Look, you don't get into I know there's you can do very well in voiceover in that, and anime it's it's paid a little differently, and I'm not able to do that now because it's non-union and stuff, and I'm ensconced in all the union things. So I have to be, I can't really do that too much of that stuff. But the pay, honestly, the pay wasn't that great, but we did it. I did it because I was just, I'm doing a cartoon and we're having fun, and that's the most important thing. You're going to go into it, do it because you want to have fun or have a good time. I mean, look, it's what a gig. We're not digging ditches. We're making goofy voices and telling stories. So
yeah.
To me, that was the most important thing. Is just to do it, and the money would come later. That was my. I don't know if that's good advice, but that's what I am.
Just don't do it for the money.
No, don't go in. Don't do it for the. That's the wrong place to come at it from.
Yeah,
you gotta have a good time, no matter what you're doing in life. It's gotta be fun, man.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's not worth doing.
Yeah. What's the point?
So this might maybe force you to remember something, but can you remember your very first role in an anime series? I mean, it doesn't have to be major. It could be something really minor. It could have been a side character or something. But do you remember the very first series that you got involved with?
It might have been something called Gray or Samurai Troopers.
Okay.
There was a character called the Ancient. I think that was early on.
Oh, okay.
As far as I think, those. Green Legend. Few of those. Yeah, there was a few of those early anime ones that I did and then I think really Ranma was one of the earlier ones. There were one-offs that I did.
Okay. Yeah.
And could have been the Kishin Core was kind of cool. I remember doing, but that was, I think they were all late '80s, early '90s in that area.
What were your overall impressions just dubbing anime for the very first time? I mean, what kind of thoughts did you?
Because I was starting to do cartoons as well, like prelay, called prelay, where everybody's in the same room and you're doing like a radio play, and you know the director's there, and so that I really enjoyed that because we're all there goofing around, we're all together, and you can kind of feed off each other's energy. With anime, you're brought in one at a time to do your lines, so you could have a giant script like in Inuyasha. Some of the scripts are like 700 pages. It's a big, thick book, but everybody's lines are in there. So you would start on line 50, and then you would go to page 500, and you'd flip 500 pages and do your line there. So you didn't get a lot of chance to get the context of the story, and it wasn't a lot of times we were given the script early. So we would go in and we would just start. So with the prelay stuff and regular cartoons where you're recording, we always get the script ahead of time. Usually, you get a chance to read it and go, oh, okay, I know what's going on. You go in, you're kind of prepared, and we all go and do a bit of a run through, and then we record the show. So we have a bit of familiarity with what's going on and continuity with Inuyasha and stuff like that. And Ram, I remember some of the individual episodes, but I didn't really get the through story until like later on. You're reading about it, or you go, oh, so that's who they are. I mean, I was doing a convention in Toronto, and there was a girl got into the van with Michael Dobson, and I were being rushed off to somewhere I can't remember. And I said, oh, well, who's the girl? Is she with us? And Michael says, oh, that's Kagome. I go, oh, okay. I didn't know anybody was, and we were doing it for 7 years. So that's the difference.
I see. So you mentioned previously before that you went into these anime series not knowing like any history about them, and how would you describe your process for picking a certain voice or tone for a character you're seeing for the first time?
They would have a visual of the character. It would be drawn, so it's already there. So, and then they would play you the Japanese, which wouldn't at all be anything close to what we do. It's just a different musicality to the voice and to the language, the Japanese language. It's not similar.
Okay.
There's a lot of and I would say, what's the matter? I mean, it's totally different. So you get a picture of the idea, and the director and Toshi from Viz Video at the time would say, well, we want him to sound this way, and make him a little younger, a little fatter. So make him a little fatter, so he's big, I mean, he's so stupid, but he's not stupid. So he's smart. He's a big guy, but he's smart. So you kind of play around until everyone goes, yeah, that's it. So we decided on the voice of Shishomaru to be this very, very calm, collected, someone in here. Doesn't yell, doesn't scream. He's a pure demon and pure evil, but we love him. I mean, that's sort of, you just find the character. Sometimes it's your own, you come up with something, and a lot of times it's by committee. They go, oh, okay, well, let's try this, try that. And as a voice actor, you have to be able to maneuver and give them what they want. That's another thing about being in VO. You have to be able to maneuver and fix what you're doing to not sound a certain way and make it sound another way. So that's one of the tricks.
Are there any like challenges to like that kind of process?
It depends. If you're having a bad day and you don't want to be there, then yeah, that's a challenge. But there's not a lot of bad days in cartoons or voiceover, really. It depends. Sometimes your brain's just not firing all cylinders. Sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm feeling very creative, and I'll do my animation auditions then. Yeah. Early in the day, maybe tired, and you just can't think. How when you're tired and your brain it's not working. Yeah. And then you could be in the car driving down the road and come up with some little voice. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna try it tomorrow. I mean, just kind of try stuff. But the process, no, it's fairly simple.
So, when you're like doing ADR work or things like that, when you're dubbing, how many takes does it like usually take to get that right voice?
Oh,
for
it
the
depends. They
character?
give you 3 beeps, like beep, 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 and then you're watching the video, and you see the lip flaps.
Yeah, the lip flaps.
Yeah, so you try and put the dialogue with those lip flaps. And sometimes it's easy. And I used to love the sessions where there was narration or dialogue, but they weren't showing the character who was speaking, so you could. It was like, oh God, I don't have to worry about that. Other times there were speeches that went on forever. Sometimes that Therese Kusranada had in Gundam, and you'd have to hit all these beats. So they would you'd get to a certain point and they would stop, and then they'd pick it up during the middle of a sentence if you didn't quite hit it. And also with the technology, they can move, your VO left or right and fit it in and make it fit. So if it was just ridiculous, they would use technology and squeeze it in there and elongate the word. I mean, it was really kind of cool what they were able to do. But most of the time it's like riding a bike. Once you figure out and get the rhythm going, you kind of get it.
So, how would you sort of compare like ADR dubbing to your regular cartoon dubbing for like an American cartoon or something like that?
Well, like I said before, like Prelay, we're all in there together. It's just a different energy, a lot of fun. In anime, you're in there by yourself, so it requires a different type of skill. You have to listen to the direction the director's giving you, or maybe the English, your other actor's already recorded his or her lines, and so you're coming off that. So you're given stuff. You're given the scene and everything else. The director will say, okay, in this scene, somebody's doing this, and you're not too happy, so we want a bit of angry happening here, and okay, we'll play you in what your other character against you said before, and you can just come in after that. So you hear his line, and then you'll react to that line after your beeps, and then you'll go into your line. So it's a different set of skills. I mean, both a lot of fun, but I always prefer the prelay because everybody's there together and we're all goofing around. It's like a little kindergarten class.
I guess my next question to you is, possibly like, how did you land that, like, I'd say iconic role of Sesshomaru? Because like every time I ask my friends about David Kaye and I told them you voiced Sesshomaru, they would fangirl or something like that. But yeah, how did you land that
it was
role?
one of those. I'm not sure. If I recall, I was brought in for it. I think Toshi at Viz, I think they had me in mind for it. If I recall, I was just brought in, and then we kind of, like I said before, we futzed around with the direction of the character and what he wanted to sound like, and we came up. And Toshi says, "Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. Let's try one." And that's how it started. I think I remember auditioning, and it might have been a callback, but as I recall, it was sort of one of those ones that were luckily sort of handed to me, and we just came up with the character well in the booth, and that was it.
and you just found the right voice, and
yeah, just based on what they wanted and what I thought they wanted, and based on the character. So sometimes it happens that way.
Oh yeah, it does. So I guess I noticed that you haven't been like dubbing anime recently, and I think I was like doing some background work, and when you move from Vancouver, you had to sort of like commit to like your other work stuff in LA, right? So
yeah, well, there's dubbing here. I just don't. It's generally non-union, and it's not something I can do.
Yeah. So like, I guess I'd like to ask you, like, what sort of brought about your like departure from like Ocean Productions, and what sort of motivated you to move to LA?
Well, it was there was a ceiling in my career. If I would have stayed there was certain things that just wouldn't be able to get access to. And I was doing a cartoon series in LA, and I was coming down here on an airplane almost every week. I was recording Transformers, and I almost got another series, and our life was in Vancouver for a while, and it became very apparent very early that I'm going to have to make a move. So I brought the subject up with my wife and said, "What do you think?" And so we made the move. Uh, yeah, I mean, you have to, eventually got their green cards and all that sort of stuff to be able to be down here, but have great agents, and a top agent and manager will get you access to the best material. And because, being a Screen Actors Guild AFTRA member, you can't do a lot of things that are non-union. It's just not cool.
Is that
and the money? The money is just for anime was not. My time became very valuable. Plus, radio stations and television stations, and if I could take a cartoon and there's commercials coming in, a promo and trailer, I don't have time to do 4 hours because the ratio of the dollars available is not nowhere near what it's the union stuff is, and it becomes an economic thing as well. And I would have done the rest of the Sesshomaru parts or the other.
Yeah, for the final act, right?
But I don't think they thought that I would fly up. I would have done it just because I would have on my own dime. I kind of would have got up. I wouldn't have made any money out of it, but it would have been fun just to kind of, finish it out. I would have. But as a lot of us moved, one of the actors moved to New York. You just can't do that there. You have to be in the studio in Vancouver to be doing that, and all my work is down here.
So like, in the near future, I guess, would it, like, if possible, would you like to ever dub an anime again? Kind of work.
Well, if it's union, if the money's worth it, then sure.
So would there ever be a chance where David Kaye will return to ADR or something like that?
Yeah, if it's a union gig, if it's SAG-AFTRA, if it's residuals and all the stuff that is normal.
All the technical terms, right?
But
Science.
Science.
All right. So I guess one of my last questions, and I really want you to listen to this one because this one's my most packed.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's packed.
And the fireball ready.
All right. So as you probably know, dubs usually take a few years before they get produced and packaged to for home video or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Funimation, however, has recently come up with broadcast dubs in which anime that is currently airing in Japan will be dubbed in English and streamed online a day or two after. So my question to you is, what's your opinion on this kind of business model? And how is it different from your ADR work in the past?
I don't really quite know what's happening there. I'm not up on that. But the streaming television, the streaming world is really the model of old TVs is changing quickly. For example, a lot of cartoons are being produced by Amazon. We've got Netflix, and they have their own thing. For advertisers, for example, on regular television, you're buying advertising time based on this, Nielsen ratings, based on somebody has a box at home, and the cat could be watching TV. If the TV's on, it could be nobody there watching. But if you're streaming, they know exactly your watching patterns. They know exactly when people are watching, how many people are watching. If an advertiser wants to buy time, they know exactly who they're going to hit.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going to be. It's streaming stuff, and the quicker the better, because people want content. Look at all the stuff now. There's so many things I'm trying to binge watch. You can get it now, and we don't want to wait. I don't know what that means for the performer. It just means it's going to be available. They want to get it to you as quickly as possible. So as far as the ADR, I mean, yeah, things take a little while before they come out, and but now with that, you're getting access to material right away.
Yeah, right away.
Which is good for all of us in this industry, because there's so much content. You have access to all this content, and there's no waiting. So that's the new model. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But.
No, it kind of does. So what would you say is kind of in store, for the future? Where would you kind of see like voiceovers or dubbing like that, how would you like? Where would it be in like maybe 10 years or so?
Well, with all the way television's going, there'll be lots of content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's opportunities for people who are writing anime and drawing anime to actually put something up there and make it,
mm-hmm.
and be able to broadcast it and be able to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
As before, you had to have the old studio system. You had to have a deal with the studio. You had to pitch the show, and you had to come up with the money.
Yeah.
Now, you basically, even as a fan, you can just make the stuff, and you never know what might happen to it. So yeah, I see more channels, more streaming, more content, and a more chance to tell stories. So there will always be work out there, which is a good thing for all of us.
So just before we move on to the fan questions, I guess I gotta ask you, like, what are your kind of any favorite anime or anime films that you've watched or you've been watching recently?
One of my favorite ones is Ghost in the Shell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to play on that one a while ago, and I've seen that one and really liked it. Played Batu, I think the Individual 11, the Laughing Man. There's a couple of episodes there. I really enjoyed doing that, and it was just well done. I think it was mid 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I got to say, all of them, that's one of my favorites. There's some pretty cool ones, but I love that one.
Mm-hmm. How about like, I don't know, have you been watching like some of the Ghibli films, I guess, just before,
Yes. I saw the recent award winner, Studio Ghibli. They're amazing to watch. I mean, it's the animations is crazy good.
Top quality.
It's just flowing. I mean, it's just I sometimes lose the story and I'm just watching the animation.
Just sitting there in awe, right?
Wow. I guess it's that style of animations, being lost. It's great to see that. It's like really, it's art. It's art. It's pure animation art and film. It's phenomenal.
All right. So I guess we'll move on to the fan questions. I don't have a lot, by the way, but it's good enough just for the short time we have.
Sure.
The first one comes from Cindy, and it's how and why did you become a voice actor?
Let me see. Because it was fun. Honestly.
Pretty much.
That's
all you need.
It was one of those things where, wait a second, you mean we get paid for this? Are you kidding me? Wow, okay. I want to do more. And that was it.
Pretty much. Well, what are your favorite kind of characters to play? This is a question from Jackson.
I love the bad guys because there's so much going on. It's like Shakespeare, like Megatron. Basically, it's Shakespeare. It's debate, To be or not to be, that is a question. It is noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against the sea of trouble. That is the right. I mean, it's just it's back and forth, and it's just fun to play in the soup. And there's a character on Ben 10 I played recently, Kyber, and sort of a South African thing. And Ogechi Ben 10 is very thoughtful and very, he was thinking all the time. I kind of love that, being able to take a little bit of time.
Wacky Pats ask if which kind of anime do you prefer? Do you prefer it dubbed?
You mean English dubbed?
Yeah,
or
English dubbed or subbed English. Or do you like both?
I tell you, it depends. Hearing it in the original language is always kind of fun in its original form. I tell you, for live action, I can't stand the English dubs. It's for live action.
Yeah, for live action films, right?
I love the subtitles because it just takes me right out of the story. If the acting is good, if in animation, if the acting is good and it works, I don't mind it. But sometimes it's just overacted. It's too much, and I prefer to hear the sub. It really depends on each project. You know, there are certain series I'd like to see and listen to an original just to find, just to get an idea of the, you know, of the show. I don't mind. But for cartoons, I'd say I mostly prefer dub because I can understand what's going on and things happen so quickly to watch the dialogue with kind of taken out of it. And in live action, I'd rather watch the subtitles. And
cartoons as in anime, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you approach roles that have been played by other actors before you?
I try and forget everything or not listen to anything that was ever done before. But I don't want it to influence anything. Yeah. Sometimes you have to kind of, if you're something you're doing that's pretty popular, it's tough. You have to come up with your own idea for it, you know. But otherwise, I try not to pay too much attention to what was done before because I don't want it to color what I'm doing with the character now.
That's a good way of going about it, because like if you listen to what other people did before, it will kind of paint a picture of, and you don't want it to sound too much like the person who did it before, right?
Yeah.
You want to come up with your own identity for the character, right?
Yeah, listen to character, the director in the cartoon, or the writers say, we're kind of thinking like they mentioned some character from the past for this character, so you maybe do a bit of a imitation of a character, that, you know, and throw that into your performance.
Sort of like Mark Hamill's Joker, I believe, because that voice is.
Yeah.
I know some other voice actors who've done that character. So
yeah, it's an iconic thing, and I mean, you know, to mimic that, it's you got to come up with your own bent on that, because Mark is Mark, you know. I work with him on the regular show sometimes, and he skips, and my favorite line is, "What are you guys doing? You're gonna blow up the universe!" You know, what are you doing? I just love that.
Paulo asks, do you plan to voice act future series sequels from the series you worked on in previous parts of your career?
Well, if they ask me, sure. It all depends on if they ask me to do something. And if someone's going to reboot something and they say, hey, would you want to do your guy? Yeah, sure, okay. I'm not going to say no.
Also, he has a joke question.
Waffles or pancakes? This is a joke question.
Pancakes.
Nice. Pancakes.
I'm with you there.
Pumpkin pancakes.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I guess that's all for the fan. Oh, yeah, there's maybe one more, but before I do the last one, Xavier, I'm pretty sure you have a question or two, right?
Question? No. What is the hardest part of voice acting in general?
Getting the job.
Getting a job.
Yes, auditioning.
Being cast.
Being the cast.
Everything else is easy, but being cast in something is tough. You have to be good. You have to be. I told my son the other day, you have to be excellent. I have to be excellent all the time. There's no room for mediocre or fine. You're reading against the best of the best down here, and
you have to know what the
bring
people
something.
Want. You have to know what they want. You know?
Well, yes, sometimes you don't know what they want. You have to be good at what you're doing. You have to be really good these days.
What Ice asks of you is to do a shout out in Sashomaru's voice for the Senpai group, which is like just a gathering of all these like anime fans and nerds. I guess. Okay, so Sashomaru voice, and just do a little shout out for the Senpai group. That's it.
Sure.
And we're recording this, so don't worry.
All right.
To the Senpai group, and all you crazy cats that are big fans of Inuyasha, and especially big fans of Shishomaru, which I certainly hope you are. I hope you are full demon and not half demon like my brother. Just a quick shout out to you all. I love you, and be well.
Nice.
Shishomaru out.
All right, that is. They're gonna really appreciate that.
Oh, cool.
All right. So thanks, David.
Well, of course, thank you, and thanks for finally for your patience in that. It was all over the road sometimes, and you can never tell what's going to happen one moment to the next.
yeah. No, we're all pretty busy these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Of course.
Cowboy Dick, howdy, boys and girls.